Hello, my name is Holly and I'm a mother of 3. I just moved in about a year ago because this is a really safe area to raise my kids that has some good schools. Since it's such a small town, there aren't many opportunities and I have to drive a couple hours to go to work. And I'm only able to be home on the weekends, but my husband stays home with my kids. I'm really happy in this town and most of the people are really nice, but our neighbors are always getting into our personal business. My kids like playing outside a lot and the neighbors always telling them how much of a terrible mother I am. I feel like I'm being put on trial when she makes these comments to my kids. And then on top of that, she's constantly wasting water as she drains her pool, and then the water runs into my backyard, killing all of my plants. I just want to live in an area where my kids can be safe and happy without having to worry about being harassed by our neighbors. She's such a typical old lady.
Hello, my name is Karen, and I have been living in this house for the past 25 years. Even though I'm older and retired now, I still want to be a very productive member of society, not like, someone else on this call. Because of that, 2 years ago, I have joined the Neighborhood Watch, and I'm very proud of the great things we have done in our area. I have great relationship with all the people on my street. My life would be perfect if it wasn't for, one of my newer neighbors. They have this obnoxious dog that barks all the time and makes my dog bark in return. I have no quiet moment, in the evening. Also, they accuse me of destroying their plants in their backyard. How is that possible? I'm not accusing them of neglecting their children by working so much. I just wish things, went back to the way they were before the Valencia family moved in next door.
Okay, so I want to welcome both of you into this space. My name is Rose, and I will be your community mediator. I understand the issue as it stands from both sides, and I just want you to know that this information and anything that we cover will be kept confidential. I will not take sides during this process either. My intention is to keep this space as productive and as helpful as possible. The purpose of the process of mediation, just so you know, is to help both of you talk it out and ultimately for both of you to resolve the conflict. To keep this space as productive and respectful as possible, I do need to lay down some ground rules. You will get an equal amount of time to speak, but it is very important that you do not interrupt each other. There will be no name calling, rude gestures, or any other non-verbal slights in this process. So just be mindful of that. Remember that at the end of the day, you will both stay neighbors, and the outcome of this process really does depend first and foremost on your effort and participation. At the end of this process, we will have a written agreement on your resolutions, and both of you will need to sign them and also come up with a process for what to do if any of those agreements are broken. I will now break down the phases of our process here. Agreed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And does anyone have any questions?
Nope.
Not so far.
Okay. So during phase 1, both of you will get a chance to tell your side of the story. You'll each get equal time and only speak to me, so not direct any comments toward each other. In phase 2, you will speak to each other, so you'll direct your comments toward each other instead of me, although I'll still moderate. And you'll need to practice respectful communication strategies here. I will moderate that as well to make sure that we adhere to the ground rules that I talked about. In phase 3, we will recap and talk about how far you've come since phase 1. I know it's not easy. It's not an easy feat to solve a conflict, so it's necessary to acknowledge your efforts. In phase 4, you will create a mutual resolution. So I won't help with that, but I'll mediate the ground rules there as well. Are we ready to begin?
Yes.
I'm ready.
Okay. So as a reminder, during phase 1, both of you will take turns talking about your side of the story. And you'll direct this toward me only. Do not interrupt each other or make rude gestures or side comments. Let's all take 3 deep breaths before we begin to ground ourselves in this space, okay? Okay. Remember, your intention is to solve the problem, not to prolong it, not to make it worse. Karen, you can start.
Well, okay, what to begin with? There is so much to tell. I'm retired now, but that does not stop me from volunteering in my community. Our neighborhood watch committee, that I am a part of, is #1 in the county. That keeps me very busy. So when I get home in the evening, I just want to relax in the backyard by my pool with my dog. My dog is very intelligent. She can feel it when I'm tired, and she just keeps it off to herself. But my neighbor's dog, on the other hand, is untrained little monster.
My dog is not a monster. He has better manners than you do. At least he knows how to behave properly, unlike you who constantly ridicules everyone.
I do no such thing.
Okay, so I understand how you must be feeling, but please do not use name calling for each other, for the dog. We will not get very far here if we choose to speak to each other like this, okay?
Okay. Well, okay, so the dog barks all the time. And of course, my precious Lily starts barking in return. The barking goes on and on and on and on, and because of that, I get horrible headache, and it turns me into this old, mean, bad-tempered lady. And that makes me mad. Also, the family next door has 3 children who need their mother, but Holly works all the time and she neglects them. That's not how mother supposed to act. That's not good for her kids. I know that based on my own experience. I was a successful businesswoman a long time ago myself, and my kids were left alone most of the time. And now I'm old and alone, and my kids don't like to visit me. I know it's because I lost my connection with them during that time. I just don't want this to happen, to this family next door. Also, my neighbors have complained that I ruined their plants, by draining my pool. I'm on the fixed income right now, so I can't afford to have a professional come and look at my pool. So what I do it myself. Of course, that creates an issue sometimes. Green algae, horrible smell, and then because of that, I have to drain my pool. I really do not see how the water from my pool can destroy their vegetation. Water is good for vegetation, right? I'm just annoyed that they're making such a big deal out of this.
My neighbor's a nightmare.
Okay, remember, no name calling.
Okay, sorry. Well, she's always telling my poor kids about what a terrible mother I am because I work. It makes me feel terrible because I love my kids and I'm working to give them a life that I never got. I grew up really poor and I just want to make sure my kids never feel like they're missing out on anything. I spend every free second that I have spending time with my family, and I call them constantly when I'm away. I just want Karen to stay out of my family's business because it's hard enough raising kids, let alone being told by some stranger that you're doing it wrong. My husband also works so hard on our beautiful garden in the backyard, and the plants never come out properly because our neighbor floods our backyard with her pool water. We have cacti in the back, and they're supposed to be watered only a couple times a month, not drowned every other week in pool water. I don't understand why she can't drain her pool once a year like a normal person. It's just all a bunch of built up problems that doesn't seem to stop.
Karen, please refrain from rolling your eyes. That goes for both of you, okay?
The least she can do is redirect the water to the other side because they don't even have plants over there. She's so inconsiderate and judgmental, and it drives me insane. None of my other neighbors behave this way, and I don't understand why she's like this.
Okay, well, thank you for trying to stick to your feelings about the whole issue and the sequence of events. Both of you, please remember, though, not to use disrespectful language towards each other. That's very important because in this next phase that we're about to go to, you will be speaking to each other. I know there have been a lot of instances where you've been really frustrated with one another, but please try to remember that at the end of the day, you just both want the same thing, to solve the issue. So we're on the way to resolving this, and I want to thank both of you again for participating in this mediation. Like I said, during this phase, you'll both get an equal opportunity to speak to one another. In person, you would face each other, but here you'll just be directing your comments toward each other instead of me, okay? I would like to start with one of the issues you have both kindly outlined for me, the pool draining problem. Remember to not attack each other verbally or make any gestures like rolling your eyes or any other rude gestures. Holly, will you please start by explaining to Karen how her draining her pool affects you?
Karen, I really don't like how you're always draining your pool. It's a lot of water and it runs into my backyard. My husband works really hard on our garden in the backyard, and there are cacti that can't be watered all the time. You're drowning our plants. It really sucks when a person puts in so much effort into something for it to just be ruined like nothing.
Thank you, Holly. Karen, what do you think about that and how does it make you feel?
Well, I understand that me emptying my pool drives Holly crazy because it ruins all the hard work that her husband does, in their garden. I mean, I always thought that water, is water, no matter what kind of water it is. So it should be good for, grass and plants. I don't have a degree in botany.
It's not about that. The plants can't have too much water or they'll die, especially cacti. They're desert plants for a reason. They're obviously supposed to survive without water.
Well, I have no idea you have such exotic plants in your yard. I guess I would be mad too if somebody drowned my plants.
Although I still sense that there's some negative undertones, Karen, in what you're saying, you're actually getting something really important out of this. You're understanding why Holly would be mad about your actions. So you're putting yourself in her shoes, which is really important to do, vice versa. Now I want to talk about the dog's barking, as I know from what you've said, it's a problem for both of you. Karen, why does it bother you when Holly's dog barks?
Well, it usually happens when I get home tired. It's almost like that dog has a sixth sense. He starts barking, and my precious Lily, being a polite little dog that she is, answers in return. Then they go barking back and forth. The barking intensifies, and I get a horrible headache. My headache gets so bad, I have to take a medication for it. But you know what? My kidneys are not functioning properly, so I can't use that medication often. I'm not allowed to. So most of the time, I just end up plain suffering.
Okay. So, Holly, do you mind going over what Karen just said to you?
So Karen's upset because when my dog barks, when she comes home really tired and my dog is barking, it makes it worse for her. And I understand her frustration and how it annoys her and gives her headaches. If I had to come home from a long day, I wouldn't want to hear barking coming from outside while I'm trying to relax either. I also didn't know about your kidneys. I also had a family member suffering from similar issues, and this gives me a new perspective of you.
Okay, Holly, you're doing a great job in directing your comments to Karen and showing empathy here. And Karen, thank you for explaining more in detail to Holly why this is a problem for you. Holly, one of the major issues for you too was the fact that Karen made some judgments about you being away from home too much and not spending enough time with your family. Karen, you mentioned this being a problem for you because of your relationship with your children as well. So I'd like to talk about this next. Karen, can you talk a little more about that? And please remember you're directing your comments toward each other, not me, okay?
Okay, well, Holly wants me to stay out of her family business. I understand that, I make Holly feel like terrible, make her feel terrible when, I'm telling her children that she's not a good mother because she's never home. Holly grew up in a poor family, so she wants her children, to have a better future. That's why she, works all the time. But all I was doing, I was just trying to help. I was in a similar situation, a long time ago myself. I was working, full time and wasn't spending much time with my kids, and then, we grew distant. And now we barely see each other. And that's because that connection was lost back then. I don't want to wish this on anybody. I just feel so lonely.
I also did not know that about you. I understand your perspective and where you're coming from as a mother that isn't close with her kids. However, I do FaceTime my kids every day, and they tell me about their days. They text me throughout the day about exciting things that happen to them and then like problems that they have in school and whatnot. And I promise I'm doing everything I can to keep a good relationship with my children. But thank you for your concern.
It sounds like Karen may not have been aware of all those ways that you stay connected to your family, Holly. And it also sounds like both of you really care about your families. Karen, how do you feel now that you know that about Holly?
Well, I am sorry for making you feel like a terrible mother. I had no idea that you're using every possible means to stay connected with your children. I just wish there was internet and FaceTime, when my kids, were young and I was working.
Okay. Well, it sounds like both of you have really come far in this process. At the beginning, you were both really tense, which was completely understandable. Now it is really great to see you two talking things out and starting to collaborate. Did we go over everything that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I feel like we covered everything, so, nothing else to talk about.
Yeah, I think I got everything out.
Okay, perfect. So now we can move on and come to an agreement on how to move forward. The solution needs to be mutually agreed upon, number one, and I won't be able to help you craft the solution, but I'll be here moderating, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so now we're in the phase where we can come up with ideas and brainstorm how to resolve your issues as neighbors. I want to open up the floor to both of you. Now that you have more of an idea on where each other is coming from, do you have any ideas on how to resolve this? We can start with the pool issue first.
I would really appreciate it if maybe Karen could redirect the water to the other side of her yard so that the water isn't emptied into my yard.
Okay, Karen, do you have any objections to this, or does that seem like something you could do?
Well, if I do that, then I will have the same issue as my other neighbors. Is there any, other solution to this?
Well, maybe my husband can help you research more into the chemicals, and I'm sure he can help you find something that doesn't require you to empty out the pool as often. It would also be helpful if you can notify me a day or two before you empty out your pool so that I won't have to overwater my plants.
Well, this actually sounds really good.
Okay, so remember this has to be a mutually agreed upon solution. Are you both content with this decision? And it might also help to set a date for you to meet about the chemicals in the pool.
Maybe we can do Saturday when I'm home and we can eat dinner and then get on the computer and research it. Does next Saturday sound good to you?
Yes, that is fine with me.
Okay, perfect. So moving on to the issue with the dogs barking. I know there's not much we can do to stop dogs from barking since it's in their nature, but do you two have any ideas on what you can do yourselves to start to resolve that issue or alleviate that issue?
Well, I guess, I will take the responsibility for it, and then, I'll just keep my Lily inside, on the evenings when I have a headache or feel one coming on.
I can also make sure to bring my dog inside at nighttime so that he doesn't bother you when you're trying to sleep.
Okay, so it sounds like you two are putting in a lot of effort into your solutions. I think that's really great. How does this sound then? To paraphrase, Karen, you will try to keep Lily inside when you have a headache, and Holly, you will go ahead and keep your dog inside at night in order to reduce the noise. Is this correct? And does that sound agreeable?
Yeah, I can agree to that.
Yeah, I agree to that as well.
Okay, wonderful. The last issue is the matter of how Karen feels about you being away from home, Holly. As I know it's a major issue for both of you, and I feel confident that you'll be able to come up with a viable solution. Any ideas?
Well, I kind of feel bad for thinking so low, Polly. Now that I know that, she's taking such good care of her kids, I will just stay away from your family business, and if I ever overstep, let me know.
I really appreciate that. And I can have my kids teach Karen how to FaceTime with her children so that she can rebuild that bond with her kids that she lost.
Okay, so Karen, now that you're more aware of what goes on in Holly's life, you feel comfortable taking a step back and not getting involved. Holly, you would like to offer to teach Karen how to use FaceTime in order for her to have a chance to reconnect with her children. Is that correct? And when are you able to do this?
Yeah, that's right. And we can do it on Saturday as well.
Okay. And Karen, what specifically will you do to not interfere with Holly's family and children?
Well, if there is an issue, I will not talk to Holly's kids. I will just go and speak directly to Holly.
Okay. Okay, thank you for being specific. Now I want to go over your agreements that you've made to each other, just so you know I am typing this up so I can send it. So first, Karen, you will make the effort to tell Holly and her husband 1 or 2 days ahead of time when you're planning to empty your pool. You will also let them assist you with the pool chemicals. Holly, you and your husband will help Karen on Saturday with the pool chemicals. For the second issue, Karen, you will bring your dog inside when you have a headache coming, and Holly, you will bring your dog inside at night. This way, the amount of noise and frustration is limited. And finally, for the third issue, Holly, you agreed to help with teaching Karen to use FaceTime on Saturday to speak with her kids, and Karen, you agreed to go directly to Holly or her husband with any further issues that you might have, as well as limit your involvement in their family life. Is this correct? And is there anything that you wanted to add into the agreement, Holly or Karen?
That's correct. And no, I don't have anything to add.
I mean, all of it sounds good to me, and yeah, there is nothing else that I would want to add.
Okay, so I have your agreement here. It's almost ready to be emailed by me to you two, and then you two will need to sign it and send it back. So it's the e-sign feature. Let's go over one last thing. We do need a plan of action to include in the agreement in case any of the agreements that you made fall apart, and you need to kind of recollect and go from there. Do you have any ideas for what to do if the situation comes up, if any of the agreements are broken?
We could revisit the issue and talk directly to each other and then explain why the contract was breached and then fix the issue accordingly.
Well, I agree with Holly. We're all adults here after all. But then if we can't fix, the issue ourselves, we can always seek, the help from the, mediator, because it worked great this time, so we can use that again.
Okay. Well, I have here, in the case of the agreement being breached, you will first collaborate and try to fix whichever problem resurfaced. And if you're not able to, you will agree to come back to mediation. This is a good solution for both of you?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll send this contract over to you both. I expect signatures by the end of the day, just so we can wrap up this process. I just want to thank both of you for participating. Despite any reservations you may have had in the beginning, you two came a really long way. Just want to congratulate you and thank you for joining me in this mediation today, okay?
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Of course.